Welcome everybody to today's Feathr webinar called Maximizing Program Awareness, How to Reach the Right Audience. I'm joined today by Christy Jones from the YMCA of Metropolitan Fort Worth. So we'll do some more formal intros in just a couple of minutes when everyone joins, but welcome Christy, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I wanted to give everyone just a couple minutes to actually join, but in the meantime, I wanted to sort of poll the audience and see what program or initiative is sort of top of mind for you today as you're joining this webinar. So, we're going to be talking a lot about audience expansion campaigns, kind of how this local Y, reaches new people, gets in front of the right audiences to promote programs, events, things like that. And yeah, kind of talking about some tips and tricks for like messaging, advertising, putting the right message and creatives in front of the right people. So if you want to go ahead and sort of drop in, I'm gonna open the chat here. Yeah, just drop in some programs or anything that you're kind of like looking to promote, looking for some insights on what you could be doing differently in terms of your digital advertising, email marketing, things like that. So I'm going to give everyone just a couple minutes to trickle in, and yeah, feel free to drop some of those answers in the chat. And I'll go over this in a minute too, but as we go through the presentation, feel free to drop in any questions and we will get to them as we can. So I'm not seeing any answers coming in, but I don't know if it's... We've been using Wistia for these webinars. I was just chatting with Christy about this and we've switched back to Zoom. So we're just getting back on the Zoom train and okay, I see some answers coming in now. Cool. Okay, yeah, member acquisition. Yep. Okay, I'll ask the question again. It looks like some people didn't hear. So I just wanted people to drop in the chat any program or initiative that's top of mind for you as you're joining this webinar today. So, we're going to be talking about reaching new audiences and some tactics for improving your digital advertising. And so want to kind of get a sense of what people are here to learn about. Giving Tuesday, yep. We've done a couple of Giving Tuesday webinars in the last few weeks, and we will be doing more of those. So definitely be on the lookout. End of year asks, yeah. New programs, yeah. Very excited to have Christy on. She's going to be talking about, after school care programs, health-related programs, things like that. Yeah, Giving Tuesday, New Year campaigns. Cool. Yeah, lots of good stuff. So feel free to keep dropping those in. Palace Theater. Awesome. Health and wellness. Yep. Right up our alley here. Cool. Okay, well, keep dropping these in. It's great to see what people are working on. Yeah, looks like Molly is in your home turf. Cool. All right, let's get started with the content here. But thanks everyone for sharing. So for anyone who just joined, today we're going to be talking about growing program awareness, getting in front of the right audiences, and I'm joined by Christy Jones from the YMCA of Metropolitan Fort Worth. So real quick, just want to talk about Feathr, just in case there's anyone new here who doesn't know what Feathr is. We are a digital marketing platform, so we offer email marketing, digital advertising, reporting, and analytics features to help you do nonprofit marketing better. So whatever that looks like for you, driving event attendance, driving donations, end of year giving, program awareness, things like this, we can help you do all of that in one platform. And we work with tons of nonprofits, so lots of charities, arts and culture organizations, associations like the YMCA. So we have, been working with lots of different nonprofits for many years and have a lot of sort of nonprofit purpose-built templates in the app. So try to make it as easy as possible for you all. I'm Isa Hasty. I'm the Senior Content Marketing Manager here at Feathr. I dropped my email in here. I'll be sending out the PowerPoint after the webinar today, so feel free to email me if you ever have any questions. And then I want to pass it over to Christy for an intro. Welcome.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me today. I'm excited to get to share some of the lessons and ideas that we've learned from our time working with the team at Feathr. For those of you who may not be completely familiar with what the YMCA is, I'll just share our mission briefly, and that is to put Christian principles into practice through programs, services, and relationships that build a a healthy spirit, mind, and body for all. I know we'll dive into this later in our conversation, but one of the areas that we identified through some of our preliminary brand research is that a lot of individuals within our community don't understand that the YMCA is, in fact, a nonprofit. And so as we go through our conversation today, you will see some of our efforts to raise awareness. But I thought that that was important to share because that was one of the driving aspects for us to reach out and engage in an awareness campaign with our Feathr partners, because we wanted to help educate and inform our community for those who may still be struggling with that knowledge.
Yeah, no, and it's funny when we talked too, I was like, oh, there's a lot more to the why than I even realized. And so I think probably a lot of people on this call will be happy to learn more. And it looks like already in the chat, somebody said they're struggling with that same problem. So we'll definitely delve into kind of like not only educating new people, but also re-educating people who might think they understand what you do, but don't actually have the full scope. So yeah,
Absolutely.
we'll dive into that in just a minute. So quick agenda item here. Like I said, I will be sending out the recording and the deck afterwards. So keep a lookout in your inbox for that. So we're going to start by talking about sort of overcoming some of these challenges to growing awareness. So like we just said, sort of educating, re-educating people on what you do. Also, just the importance of actually creating cohesive multi-channel marketing. So reaching people across channels with, messaging that makes sense and ties back to your brand always. And that's a huge part of just getting people familiar and on board. And then we're going to be talking about some specific audience expansion campaign types that you can run in Feathr to kind of get the word out to like net new people that don't know about you yet, or maybe know about you but aren't aware of what exactly you're offering in their area. And then we'll talk a little bit about ad retargeting and how that helps you take those people that you've just brought into the fold and nurture them to actually engage and drive action. We'll talk about some tips around messaging and creatives, and then a little bit about reporting and sort of the importance of tracking conversions and seeing, what's working and where you can optimize. So we're going to get into all of that. So let's start with this first part here. So yeah, just sort of, the importance of creating a multi-channel experience that is cohesive across all of the different mediums where people are going to be seeing you. So I was hoping, Christy, you could share a little bit about sort of what your marketing looked like before Feathr.
Sure. Before Feathr, and we were running what I would call an omni-channel campaign efforts. We were in the print space. We were running Google ads with our grant. So we had digital pieces out there. We were doing email marketing, as well as outdoor and some light geofencing of outdoor billboards. What we were struggling with at that time, oh, and some direct mail. What we were struggling with was trying to was cohesively seeing where all of these pieces were essentially driving individuals. Where were they coming to our site? Were we seeing the conversions, and were we seeing those efforts result in the actions that we wanted? And while we did have some tracking in place, it wasn't as robust as we would like. And we really wanted to be able to see that user, and I'm going to call them customers just for the sake of our conversation, but seeing that customer journey and how they leveraged our website, and how they were coming to us, and how they were navigating our site, but more importantly, how they were being ushered in and invited into that space. And so when we were able, so that's what we were up against. That's what we were working with. We did find some success with QR code tracking and some other aspects, but again, our driving factor in looking for new solutions was really to see that follow through, and that journey that a customer took from seeing the creative to making that final action.
Yep. I'm seeing some comments in the chat too about just people who are in program director positions or new positions, and yeah, excited to learn about sort of developing programs and getting in front of people. So yeah, we'll be addressing all of that. Yeah, and if you could talk also just sort of about the importance of reaching people on multiple channels to drive
Sure.
awareness. So, yeah, you sort of spoke to that a little bit, but sort of making sure that you're getting in all of those places where people are already spending their time.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me just kind of frame up for us when we really launched with Feathr, as I shared, it was to reintroduce and inform the community about our nonprofit status and the variety of work that we do to support the community, and also to encourage families to become aware of some of our key programs that we're offered year round. So you can see that on the screen. Our after school programming was a very uh, uh, big campaign for us as well. But what we wanted to make sure is that we weren't wasting our time or our energy talking to individuals that were not interested in what we had to offer. And with this digital opportunity, we were able to meet people not only where they were, but also ensure that we are targeting high interest individuals who already have, whether it's a donation campaign, already have the propensity and the desire to give, or in the case of this after school program, people who have children in their home and are looking for after school care.
Yeah.
Um, Being able, I just kind of liked what I've found to be very helpful is that with this digital campaign across multiple platforms, it's like wherever they turn around, we're there, and it starts to take root in their brain in terms of message awareness and brand awareness. And so I think for us, that's what we found to be extremely beneficial with these multiple channels, cohesive creatives, ensuring that people who fit the demographic that we wanted to reach were able to see this information consistently wherever they were.
Mhm.
Yes, and so it wasn't invasive. It's felt very native, and also just uh, consistent.
Yeah. That's great stuff. And we're going to be, like I said, diving into some of those specific campaigns that let you actually kind of cherry pick like the exact groups that you want to be reaching in terms of demographics and interests and search history and things like that. So yeah, and let's talk a little bit more
Yeah.
about this point that we mentioned at the beginning. So, sometimes you're just educating new people who have never heard of your brand and getting on their radar, but sometimes people might think they understand what you do and they don't. So can you talk a little bit about the nuance of doing that through ads?
Sure. So, as I shared earlier at the opening of our call, we had some really great research that helped drive our efforts and our messaging. We learned that individuals saw us as a gym, a swim, something that they could participate in, but didn't really recognize the depth and breadth of the various programming, and that we offer a haven from social isolation. We provide mental health support. And so we did want to engage in a campaign, not only to educate, but also to encourage people to even donate if these are items or these are areas of importance and care for them. And so through the development of some really targeted messaging around those areas that we wanted people to know about our organization, that is really what drove the messaging behind our efforts to broaden that public perception of what the YMCA brings to a community, and also letting the community essentially like introducing the fact that if they have no desire to ever lift a dumbbell or jump into a swimming pool, that the YMCA has programming and support for them or their neighbors. And I think what I saw transform with a lot of our Feathr campaigns was that ability to reach people and educate them subtly, and also drive them to the website where they could get that deeper understanding of the variety of resources available to them.
Yeah, and I think this ad is a really good example of how much information you can communicate in one small ad. Like it's not even text heavy, it's very visually appealing and nicely balanced, but you are able to sort of say a lot here. So yeah, I think a lot of the ads that you guys are running do a really good job of balancing, communicating a lot of information, but in a way that's still nice looking.
Yeah, and as you can see with some of the campaigns, you'll see I call it like a grounding image, an image that does feel familiar to the brand, and then introduces additional images. And I
Yeah.
think that was really thoughtfully done and intentionally done, because we did know where people understood and had a familiarity with our brand, and then it helped lead them into the other areas of our programs that we offer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, let's dive
Yeah.
into some of these specific campaigns. So I'll kind of talk a little bit about how the campaign works, and then we'll dive into, an actual version of this campaign that Christy ran. So geofencing, for anyone who's unfamiliar, is basically the ability to serve ads to people based on their physical location, whether that's currently or previously. So if you're looking for big ticket donors, you might want to target like high income areas, wealthier neighborhoods, maybe golfing events, things like that, where you know that there's going to be people who have a little bit more money. If you're looking to grow membership, you might want to target, some relevant industry events, universities, things like that. So you're basically, targeting people who are in a physical location who you think might be interested in whatever it is that you're promoting. So yeah, I'm gonna actually try to open up one of your campaigns in Feathr so we can kind of show how this
Sure.
worked. But if you want to talk a little bit about the types of locations or events that you
Yeah.
typically geofence.
Yeah. So we really dove in to our geofence efforts around our fundraising and our awareness campaigns. And we did something called a historic geofence, which means we went to a date and time of a special event and geofence something that has already happened. So in our community, there are a considerable number of high-end galas and fundraising events. And so with our efforts, we geofenced those events, again, because these are individuals who already have a high net worth, but they also have the heart and the desire to support nonprofit efforts. And many of the efforts aligned with some of these programming aspects that people are not familiar with. We also geofence one of our own events. We have a 15,000 person turkey trot run every year. And surprisingly, many of the people who participate because it's fun, but they don't realize the depth and breadth of the YMCA's programming. And it's hard to educate them when they're there for a 5K run, even though we follow up with emails afterwards. What was really nice about this is we were able to serve a series of ads to educate them as well, that really layered in nicely to uh, educate them about what the YMCA does outside of that special event. And then when we went to our after school programs, we wanted to find a place where a lot of parents and kids spend time together. And I will just share with you all, I was like, oh, well, we're going to geofence the schools that we're providing after school care at. That's where we're going to go. And who doesn't have a cell phone at school? Our kids. So we looked instead at some of the larger churches in the community. We looked at activity centers, things like urban air, bounce houses, trampoline parks, high energy locations, but that were in the service areas that we support. And we geofenced various weekend events as well. High events. I'm sorry, high attendance days, Saturdays and things like that. And again, what that allowed us to do was serve a series of ads and communicate about the services of our program. And I just thought it was really clever. From our support, and I say clever, the Feathr team that helped coach us through this was very clever in terms of helping us evaluate the locations and timing around that, and asking really good probing questions to get us to narrow the information or narrow those locations down.
Yeah, and I think it's a great point that you can geofence your own events, because often we talk about geofencing competing events or specific locations, but I've heard of some nonprofits like theaters geofencing their own shows. It's like as people are sitting there in the audience already at one of their shows, maybe scrolling on their phone before it starts, they can see an ad for upcoming shows that they obviously are primed for because they're already there. So yeah, that's a great way to use this campaign type. Also want to call out here, if anyone's wondering why conversions are low, I think it's important to note that there's awareness campaigns and then there's conversion sort of driven campaigns. And so a lot of the ones that we're talking about today are these audience expansion campaigns where you're getting in front of new people, maybe for the first time ever. It's highly unlikely that someone's going to see your ad for the first time, click through and make a donation that day. And so that's sort of the point of all of this sort of, digital advertising, staying on their radar, nudging them over time with retargeting, is that they're not going to convert in most cases on the first time they see your ad. And so you have to expect that some of the campaigns serve the purpose of just getting in front of people, driving them to your website for the first time. And then other campaigns like retargeting ones, email marketing campaigns are going to have those conversion numbers that you want to see. So it's all part of the same funnel. But you have to kind of, I think, temper expectations around conversions sometimes. Cool. So let's go into search keyword campaign. So this is targeting people with ads as they browse the web based on keywords that they've searched. So this is different than Google Ads, where you're sort of showing up in that top spot as somebody's searching. This allows you to serve ads after they've left that page and after they're browsing the web. And so it's a great thing to actually combine with Google ad campaigns. So you're really hitting people wherever they are based on those search terms. But it's, yeah, a good way to kind of continue showing them ads long after they've actually been on that search results page. So yeah, can you talk a little bit about how you identify keywords that you want to target for these campaigns?
Sure. We when we are looking for keywords, some of the areas that we look to are not only our SEO, our search engine optimization keywords, but also popular terms that we've seen families use or donors use when they talk about our programs. So when somebody messages us and says, "Tell me about your camp programs. Tell me about how to donate." Those are the areas where we pull our keyword search terms from. We also look at our competitors. So we do competitor keyword lists, as well as a variation of locations, particularly as we see this funds out, suns out. We include all of the elementary schools and the communities that these camps take place in. Because if I'm a parent and I'm typing in, Ridgely Elementary, and that's where my child goes to school, I'm looking for day camps near Ridgely Elementary because I don't want to drive very far. I want it to be close to my neighborhood and close to my home. So those are some of the guiding principles that we've used. And then sometimes we also we ask people. We will ask, hey, if I'm not an actor, I am a parent, but if I wasn't, I would ask parents, hey, tell me how you search for things. What do you need? What are the terms?
Mhm.
And that's really what has driven and guided our keyword development. And we also look to see which ones are performing well within. And I love that you said that, Isa, the complement of these ads with Google. We will
Yeah.
actually look and see what our Google ads with those top keyword search performing keywords, sorry, y'all, performing keywords are, and we slide those in here as well to get that to get those to trigger these ads in other areas as well.
Yep. And another cool thing that I know you mentioned when we were chatting the other day is that you are able to kind of look at how your ad campaigns are performing and test messaging that way too. And I know you mentioned
We
that you were
did.
testing terms like after school care versus I think child care, was it? And you
Mhm.
noticed that there was a difference in like the people that were clicking on the child care ads were actually like parents of much younger kids, and that wasn't what you were trying to advertise for. So do you feel like that kind
Absolutely.
of helps you also inform like the keywords that people are probably searching for?
Yes, the ad performance absolutely helps us decipher how and what people are looking for. And actually, I mean, you summed it up beautifully. We were running a series of ads that said childcare. We were also running a series of ads that ran after school. The after school one set performed considerably better, and we came to that realization that it was the a different subset. It was not the right audience that we were attracting when we were using the word childcare. They were skewing younger. So when they would land on our page, the interest, the conversion, the clicks weren't being seen because they landed there and they were like, that's not what I need. I need
Yep.
something for my little. So yes, it's been really helpful. There are so many, oh my goodness, that it is just such a rich set of data that you can review, and I slice it in so many different ways. And we could probably have a 3-hour webinar just on data interpretation alone and keyword search functionality and how you can leverage this data to inform how you market and how you communicate to your audiences.
Okay, let me get back to
Yeah.
you. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then affinity targeting. So I know this is another one that you guys have used. This lets you promote your cause or your organization's work to relevant new people using demographic data, industry data, buyer search history data, things like that. So it's basically third-party data that you can access within Feathr, and you just go and you search for whatever group that you want to target, and then you can serve ads to those groups of people. So yeah, could you talk a little bit about how you're leveraging this and what groups you've explored?
Well, if you don't mind, I'll probably jump to a newer campaign, maybe
Sure.
not one of the ones that you and I spoke about. But one of the areas that we've been exploring with the Affinity campaign is particularly around our membership expansion, our member growth campaigns that we just launched at the end or mid 2024, August of 24. And within that subset, we're looking at people who are in the health and fitness industry, but also people who there's a functionality within this also that allows you to grab markets as well. And so markets, and help me if I'm still kind of new here on that. So it allowed us to identify people who are members of other fitness facilities, gyms. And while we are more than that, we still need members
Yeah.
too. So the affinity targeting is really nice because it's broad. It's general. It's a great way to introduce, and I call it kind of like it's like your cold audience for us. They're they're inclined to your message. They have similar interests, but maybe they've never heard of your particular program, your service, what you offer. But they have that, again, that leaning towards it. And so I love this because it allows you to reach a large audience, or also understand if that's even the right audience based on the size, especially for us, we're a very small geography in terms of a market spread. And so there are some groups where we may choose to go more broad just because of our geography, to reach more people, to educate them about the programs and services we offer. I really appreciate that there are so many industries, and you can dial it in as tightly as you want. But we have chosen to keep ours fairly broad, just because we tend to be really narrow with our service area.
Yeah, and I know I looked at a couple other affinity campaigns that you guys ran, and just to give everyone sort of an idea of how specific you can get. So for the after school care, I know that you were selecting groups like parents of children age 7 to 9, parents of children age 10 to 12, so you can get pretty granular there. And then for donations, I saw that some of the groups that you targeted were like people related or people interested in health related causes, or people who have donated to charities, or people interested in health as a topic. And so those are just some examples of sort of how specific you can get when you are targeting that. So yeah. Okay, and then email mapping. This is also known as CRM retargeting, so you might have heard it called that. This lets you reach people whose email you have, but with display ads. So no emails are sent as part of this campaign. You're simply using their email as sort of that unique identifier to then serve them ads in the same way that geofencing or retargeting ads are. So just display ads as they're browsing the web. So they'll see your ads, and even if they haven't been opening your emails or they haven't been to your site in a while, you can still reach them in this other way. It's a great way to kind of re-engage lapsed members, lapsed donors, people who, for whatever reason, just aren't engaging with your emails. So yeah, could you talk a little bit about the sort of the people, the lists that you target, the email lists that you target?
Sure. So uh, we have actually, particularly around our donation efforts and our fundraising and awareness efforts, we email map. We pull the emails from our members who haven't given, because it's our desire to turn everyone into a donor who comes through our door. And so that has been a really substantial use of our email mapping, is retargeting our members for donations and gifts. We also pull lapsed donors. So hit that on the nose. We pull our lapsed donor list, any lie bunts as well. And then we also leverage purchased email lists for this as well, particularly around our childcare and our after school and childcare programs. It would be fairly off-putting, I would say, for a parent to get an email from a stranger, essentially requesting them to put their child in their care. But leveraging an email map, instead, leveraging that data with this email mapping tool allows us to serve them up ads and warm that lead and drive them to our site, which then allows us to either capture their information or let them click through and learn more about our programming. So that is where we have been leveraging email mapping. We have some strategies as we are moving into the new year, where we are going to be more heavily segmenting our member base and our prospects. Prospects are people who come into the centers or ask about a program, but then they don't convert. So we are doing more intentional work, again, around segmenting our members and those prospects, and delivering them specific ads on what we call minor programs that will re-engage them in new ways within smaller member and non-member based programs.
Got it.
Yeah.
Cool. I see a couple questions in the chat, so I just wanted to get to those real quick. So yeah, I see one asking, is Feathr's audience data collected worldwide, or is it specific to the US? So it is worldwide, but there are some restrictions based on any like applicable laws in international locations. So I want to get a sort of more in-depth answer to you. So I will actually follow up uh, with you, the person who asked this question, with a little bit more of a detailed answer from our product team. But it is worldwide data, but we do work in like, restrictions based on the specific location, to make sure that we're abiding by those privacy laws. Hopefully that answers your question for now. And then, yeah, does Feathr include the creative with the campaign? So no, this is a separate, so we offer services to some nonprofits that qualify for it. And so this is something that I know, Christy, you've worked with our services team, but you also do some of the marketing in-house. So it's kind of a split. So a lot of Feathr users, are fully self-serve and they're creating those ads in-house, whether they have a design team or even solo marketers sometimes are kind of doing a lot, wearing a lot of hats and creating the creatives. But yeah, so some of the ads in here are from our team. And yeah, that's a separate program. Okay, let's get into this next part. So just kind of talking about once you've gotten the word out to these new people and sort of gotten your message in front of new audiences, how are you actually continuing to engage them and drive them to convert? So retargeting is one of the main ways to do this. And so you all are probably familiar with retargeting, but this is just, serving ads to people based on website visits. And so, people aren't probably going to convert the first time that they hit your site. And so you want to bring them back again and again and continue serving them ads until they do take action. And so, there's lots of different stats out there, but it does take somewhere between 7 and 12 touch points to get someone to become a donor or a supporter. And this is much higher than, the 3 touch points needed for a lapsed supporter, which is why those email mapping ads, for example, can be really impactful because those are typically people that you have had some kind of relationship with before. It might take just a few ads to get them back in, versus a totally new person. So retargeting is a great way to kind of, yeah, nudge people. And like you said, Christy, earlier, like it's subtle and it's just kind of, it's everywhere they turn, but in a way that's not invasive. So that's kind of the goal of these ads. So yeah, could you talk a little bit about sort of how you think about retargeting for your organization and what you determine to be sort of high intent pages on your site that you want to retarget?
Sure. With the majority of our campaigns, our high intent pages are our donate or our give page, our join page, and then whatever program specific page that we're looking to promote. When we are driving folks to those pages, if they land but don't click on any buttons, that is where we're capturing them to retarget. Because as Isa pointed out, we want them to come back. We want them to essentially see us where they live and live and breathe in the digital sphere. Yet, what I love about these campaigns is once somebody does take the action that you want them to take, they essentially are pulled out of that retargeting funnel. And again, as a nonprofit, it's just so important for me to spend my dollars where it's most important. And this allows us as an organization to retarget those folks who have come to the page, didn't take action, but then at that same time, if they do take the action and follow through with the steps that we would have liked them to take, essentially our term of converting, then those dollars are retargeted somewhere else. That person is no longer in our funnel for retargeting. But it is so important. Those 3 areas, our give page, our join page, and whatever our program page, that essentially represents the three financial priorities of how our nonprofit is sustained and can continue to operate. And so that's why those are high need or high driving pages.
Yep. Yeah, and I pulled a couple examples into the deck just to kind of show. So I know that with financial assistance, this is kind of a big topic for, when you're promoting the after school care programs, or people might not know about the affordability or accessibility of these programs. And so actually targeting people with ads about that can be impactful.
Yeah, that's a real differentiator, I think, for a lot of nonprofits out in the world who are in the maybe for-profit sector in some service lines, is that we do want people to know that income and the ability to pay should not deter them from participating fully in the services that we have to offer. And I'm so sorry, I had a train of thought and then I read a question, so I apologize.
Good.
But yeah, so I'll just share. Our volunteer page is also on our give page. So our giving is kind of in two sections. It's give of your time or give of your treasure. And so we actually have not run a volunteer conversion campaign, but I think that would be a really beneficial target and strategy if you do have a large volunteer base.
Yeah, absolutely. Ashley, I think that's a great question. I do think that, volunteer pages, those are going to be pages where you have highly engaged people who are invested in your cause coming to that page. So definitely a good high intent signal for somebody who might want to give in other ways. Absolutely. And then, yeah, and registration dropout. So this is kind of another thing that a lot of people on here might be doing already, cart abandonment, registration dropout, whatever you want to call it, sort of people who are hitting that destination page, whether it's a donate page, a program sign up page, something like that, but not actually following through. And so then, you can obviously hit them with an email in the inbox after sort of encouraging them to come back. But retargeting ads are another way that you can do cart abandonment or registration dropout. And so these are some ads from the campaign you were running to after school program registration dropout. So people who had hit that page but didn't actually sign their kid up. And then, yeah, once again, nice looking ads. And then, yeah, can you talk a little bit about the turkey trot event? I know you mentioned it earlier, but I know that's a big one for you guys.
It's right around the corner. It sure is. Our turkey trot is actually one of our largest and our only fundraising event that we do for our YMCA. And it as I had shared earlier, a lot of individuals may not realize that their participation in that is actually going to support scholarships and program access and all of the things that our organization, it helps fund a lot of the good work that we do in the community. As I said, we had almost 15,000 runners this past year. We had moved locations. We had kind of been on the decline before this past year. And we knew it was very critical to have a strong turnout, but also reach new audiences, folks who maybe had a preconceived notion about what a race or what this run looks like or meant to them. And these campaigns this campaign allowed us to not only educate people about what the race does, but also encourage people to participate and sign up leading up to the event. But then, as I shared with you all earlier, it allows us, the more people that we had at the event, we knew we had the secondary opportunity to geofence that location and then serve them even more a different subset of ads to, again, educate and re-educate them about the programs and the services and the support that the organization provided to the community. One of the things I love about this campaign is it allowed a different look and feel. It allowed, even if we were hitting some of those overlapped audiences of donors and supporters in the community, those affinity audiences, it gave them a new creative and a new way to connect with the organization. Maybe a straight donation isn't something that they felt compelled to do. They were now given an opportunity to actively participate in something. And so I think that was also one of our goals within the strategy of weaving this into our full donation campaign is, again, a fresh creative, a new call to action, and a way to capture people's interests on those pages to, again, retarget them and remarket this awareness and campaign messaging in a new way.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point too. You don't want to always be reaching people with some big ask or e-appeal or something, right? You want to be staying on their radar and providing value, sometimes entertainment, opportunities to participate in fun things. And you want to be adding value to the lives of your audience rather than always asking them to give or to volunteer. And so I think, like you said, things like this are a great opportunity to not only have a new creative and a fresh, set of colors and imagery that people are seeing, but also just like new CTAs and new asks that might pull them back in a different way and keep them engaged. And so hopefully they will end up taking that action, making that donation, whatever that looks like down the line. But you aren't guaranteed to get that just from only ever asking for that. So yeah, I think that's really important sort of best practice in marketing.
Yeah.
And then let's see. Okay, so yeah, just talking about a little bit more about sort of the messaging and creatives. I think we've kind of touched on a lot of this as we've been talking. But can you talk about sort of some of the main messages that you try to focus on in your ads and how you prioritize those?
Sure. Well, first and foremost, I mean, y'all can see it's people first. We really want to showcase people helping people, people engaged with one another. But as we've pointed out, a lot of folks do recognize the health and fitness aspect of our organization. But in some instances, they don't realize maybe the full depth of that in terms of specific disease states like Parkinson's and diabetes and nutritional support. The mental health component of being a part of a community, and we're so fortunate because we get to see it every day. You walk into a center and you see people having coffee and communicating and laughing and just connecting, and it's really beautiful and enriching. So that's what we wanted to introduce with our creatives, and a little bit of education as well, because you keep seeing the Parkinson's ad, and that just keeps grabbing my attention because our Pedaling for Parkinson's program is something that is such a need, but you don't need it until you do. And we just want to educate people, because if they have a neighbor, if they have a friend, or a grandparent or brother or sister who is diagnosed, it can feel really isolating. And I think that's one of the areas that we have really been intentional about. And that is the whole aspect of community building and breaking down social isolation, and the mental health component of just being a part of a group.
Yeah.
Positive mental health aspect, I should say.
Yes.
And I had kind of forgotten where I was reading that article or reading that question, but I wanted to share with this group around the retargeting aspect. The beauty of a lot of the retargeting campaigns is you can determine the duration of the last visit. So if you want to target somebody just within the last 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, that does reset. And so I think that's really important, because it allows you to refresh and serve up campaigns in a meaningful way to people who have recently been active on your site and on your various pages. And I do want to share that, yes, volunteering is a great landing page, but also so is site-wide. On a lot of these campaigns, when we are just trying to build awareness, we are driving people to certain pages, But some of our retargeting may not even be just for that landing page. It might be site. We have some that are set up site-wide, meaning
Yep.
I don't care if you came to my homepage. I don't care if you went to my volunteer page. I don't care if you went to my blog. If you touched my site in the last 90 days, I want to serve you an awareness campaign. And I think that is really a wonderful opportunity with digital advertising, particularly of this style and this retargeting component, because it is doing work for you year round. Whenever someone is thinking about your program, your product, your services, they visit your site, you now have an opportunity to communicate to them again and again and again through this mechanism, where I love it because it's working year round for me.
Yeah.
It's working year round for our mission, and it's working year round for our community. You never know when somebody is going to come to your site and need that little nudge after they've visited to take that action, to accept the help maybe that you are offering. I will say that is why we do choose to run a year-long awareness campaign that runs a site-wide retarget, because we want those individuals to essentially be to know that we've seen them. And I feel like when we are able to run this year-round campaign that retargets any individual that comes to our website with an awareness or an informational message, it allows us to support our mission even more so than if they just visit and then they're gone. So you just
Yeah.
never know when somebody's going to be looking for your work or for your
Yeah.
product.
No, and it's really that sort of responsive audience first marketing, right? Because it's like everybody in your audience is not doing the same thing at the same time. It would be great if coming up on Giving Tuesday, everybody that you're reaching made a donation on that day, but that's just not how it works. And so obviously you're going to operate based on seasons and big days and like pour a lot of effort into those big initiatives. But then having things like this running in the background year round is just that way to make sure that you are reaching all those other like people in between who aren't maybe coming to your site on Giving Tuesday or whatever, or aren't signing up for the gym in January, but might do it a couple months later. And so you want to, yeah, just make sure you're reaching each individual person based on what they need and where they're at in their journey. Um, okay, let's talk a little bit about reporting. So I think it would be cool if you could talk about sort of how Feathr's reporting features specifically have helped your team sort of prove ROI, prove value of marketing.
And let me just share, this is a fresh dashboard and I love it.
Yes.
So thank you, Feathr, for updating that dashboard. And yes, I'll address a little bit. So with the question, but also with the dashboard. What the dashboard allows us to do is see, and you guys are just getting a little snapshot, but it does allow us to see which campaigns are performing best, which types of, whether it's an affinity, a keyword, or retarget, how people are working through those phases and stages. And I will share, we have a separate registration CRM system, and it doesn't always play well with external groups. So our conversions that we track through, particularly around membership, are they go through the join page. But I will share, just last week we had some really exciting, pull through where we were able to see which members were able that they joined. They went from a cold lead, a keyword search, through a retarget, to a cart abandonment, and then a registration. And so we are able to see that, and we did have to piecemeal some of it together because of our third party registration CRM system. But at a glance, what you can see is which campaigns are performing well, which times of the day, which creatives are getting the greatest engagement. Do we double down on that? Do we change a color and just follow through with that? It also, while we haven't necessarily had this experience outside of that childcare after school situation, it also allows you to see where things aren't performing and to do a deep dive and understand maybe what's happening and why. And I'm sorry, I was just trying to scroll
Yeah.
down. But yeah, so that's how we use the dashboard for our campaigns.
Someone's asking if you use Daxco. I don't know if,
We do.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, so Feathr has native integrations with some platforms and then also pixel-based integrations with others.
Mhm.
So a lot of it comes down to like what Christy just said, like some platforms don't always work well with others. And so that's always a possible challenge there. But generally, if you're using a third-party platform to actually bring those donations in, or a donation tool, or a membership tool or something like that, where you're sort of actually getting the signups on a separate place than your website, you can add the Feathr tracking pixel to those web properties to track conversions, pull that data into Feathr and see it alongside all of your campaigns. So yes, in a lot of cases, you can track those conversions from those third-party tools. I'm not sure about Bonterra, so I will get an answer on that for you, Winston. I would guess that a pixel-based integration would work for that, but I will look into that and get back to you.
Yeah. And I will share, we use Bloomerang and QGive for our donation, and they set up beautifully. And before that, we used another donation software, and it was extremely easy to set up that conversion. So we were able to see those, are able to see that those campaigns go all the way through to
Yep.
conversion.
Yep.
And we are still, JW, we are working with our reps at Daxco to find a good place for that pixel. So I know that they are working on that. They're trying.
Yep. Good to hear. Okay, yeah, Winston, I'm gonna pull the chat after and make sure I answer all these questions. I want to check these things with our product team, make sure I'm giving you fully accurate answers here. But yeah, feel free to keep dropping answers in, or sorry, questions or answers if you have them in the chat. But that wraps up. I just want to wrap up before we hit time. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Christy, so much. This has been amazing to have your insights on all of this. And if anyone would like to hear more about how Feathr can help, if you kind of like some of the campaigns you've seen here, want to do more of what Christy described today, please drop an answer in the poll that we just launched. And yeah, thanks again, Christy. It's great to have you on. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Yeah, that's great feedback, Winston. Thanks. I love having real customers on here, not only because you have that sort of expertise of using the platform, but also just like I think nonprofits want to hear from other nonprofits, about what's working, and just hearing from your peers, I think goes a long way. So thanks for all the feedback, guys, and thanks for joining. Yeah, keep dropping answers in the polls if you'd like to, but we will go ahead and call it. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
Thank you all for being so generous with your time today. I really enjoy sharing what I do because I'm so passionate about it. And I can see from the audience and from all of the conversations and questions that you all are as well. So keep doing the good work.
Yep. Sounds good. All right. Take care, everyone.